and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, it's time!
Welcome in, gentlemen, back with another UFC Picks podcast. It's your boy P. Welsh here. Onto UFC 298, Volkanovski v. Topuria this Saturday, February 17th, 2024. What an exciting card we have to bring you this weekend. First, we're going to do a little recap of last week because I promised, and that's something that I really enjoy to do. So let's do a little recap from the fight night. It was Pfeiffer Hermansson. We had Marcos Archie-Lang, no contest because of the 4 groin strikes in 1 minute. Unbelievable turn of events. Marcos was winning very handily. We had Emil win. Very nice. Gustav with a KO. Very nice prediction. Wells and Griffin. Very close. I mean, it could go either way. Look at the odds. It was again, went to the judges' scorecards. Had Procino, a nice win over Devin Clark. Look, boom, me. Very solid. Oki, big favorite, was a very close decision. But we had that one right. Prates, TKO victory over Giles. Very nice. Vieira handled Petrosian, right? I thought that was a pretty nice call there. I lost to Johnson. Johnson looked really sharp. Flowers did absolutely nothing. I expected a little bit more from Flowers. His second UFC fight. Definitely a disappointment. Definitely was just a fan of his name, Darius Flowers. So take an L on that one. RoboCop Rodriguez, absolute machine. Topuria being Bryce Schick, another one of those experience versus newbies kind of saw coming. Lost on Dan Ige, 50K Dan Ige to Andre Touchy-Feely. Feely just wasn't sharp. I didn't realize they had history like that. And then I lost her Pfeiffer. I picked Pfeiffer over Hermansson. I did lie right before the bet. I cashed out my Pfeiffer parlay and put it all on Hermansson. So my record's a little bit worse, but we did catch a few of the units on the return there, and we are bringing it to you live. UFC 298, starting with Andrea Lee and Miranda Maverick leading off the card. Going to open up the night here, and we have 13-8 versus 14-5. Lee coming off a loss. We have Maverick coming off a win. 3-inch height difference for Andrea Lee there. And I tell you what, there, Lee's going off as a considerable underdog, and I can see why. They tend to be pretty sharp with who's going to win these women's matchups. I'm leaning towards Maverick and by decision just because of she might not be able to get a finish because Lee has the length on her. She might be able to get into some awkward positions that make Maverick hard to navigate in the fight, but I can see her getting in, taking her down with the shorter limbs, compacting the fight, and just wearing her out over the course of 3 rounds. Likely approaching a finish, but I don't think ever securing one. I do like Maverick in there. Nice early one to start us off there. Grab your snacks. Grab a drink. That's coffee, ladies and gentlemen. And buckle up because, it's going to be a long night. We're in for a long one there. I think you're going to see a kind of a more considerable fight. But I think you can see Maverick really handle business pretty considerably. The win percentage takes a long time, can really navigate the ground with sub and decision games. Like I said, in the women's, if I'm handicapping, I always like to take the favorite by decision. Right, is a hot one. There are times when there are finishes, but besides that, we're leaning Maverick. I think she controls the ground game. Long fight time by decision seems pretty solid. You might get some better juice on there, and then we'll move on to the next fight, which we have Val Woodburn versus Oban Elliott. 7-1 lost Val Woodburn, lost to Bo the Big Show Nickel versus Oban Elliott, debut out of England, and right off the bat at welterweight, I just see the height difference. I got 6 foot versus 5'8". That is a significant difference. I feel like they're not really doing Woodburn any justice. I know he fought middleweight for the Bow fight, and it says he's coming down for a welterweight bout here. He's just, hopefully he can get in there and do some damage. I hope he can show people why he's in the UFC and not just somebody that they threw a contract in to fill in on short notice, and really hope he has something to prove there. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage with his arm, so he could do damage coming in, hooking around, big looping hooks. This one's hard to handicap. They got Oban Elliott as a big favorite. Woodburn going in there at in the plus 200s. It could be an upset loss, but just knowing that he didn't have a training camp against Bo, I really hope that he's been doing himself justice. This is a hard one to call. I'm gonna lead for the person in the debutee with a nice reach advantage. Probably I would like this fight not to go to decision. If there was one way that I was leaning, is maybe this fight to end in a KO either way. Right. That being said, I would lean Oban and that KO, but I could see Woodburn getting in there doing a lot of damage. So if I had to make a bet for the fight, I probably wouldn't make a bet just because I don't like the odds too much, or Woodburn for the upset, but I'd maybe like the fight to end in a KO. We could see some fireworks early. Like I said, there's some decisions that go in there, some TKOs. Like I said, Woodburn can come in there, starch him. Oban looks like he might be able to really use his I don't even want to say experience, man. I didn't really do too much homework on him, but 9-2 record, 2 by sub outs, 26, birthplace of England. We're gonna lean Oban Elia, and we're gonna move on to the more exciting fights that with more familiar faces and names into the early prelims feature bout. We have Danny Barlow coming in a debut versus Josh Quinlan, 6-1 United States, 6'2", 6'1" versus 1-0 record, and another one that's really hard to. These welterweights, they tend to be very hard, very competitive division. A debutee versus Josh coming off a loss, a lot of experience, not a lot of ring time. It's looking like this fight may end in a finish. Danny is a considerable favorite. My guy Josh don't even go to the card, it says. That being said, that's a good way to maybe end it if this another one of those can't pick a fighter if the juice is too much. Danny is a heavy favorite too. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna take Josh. I'm gonna go Josh Quinlan. I think Danny making his debutante. If you're not having a significant mixed martial arts upbringing, it's very tough to just step into the octagon with somebody that has experience. This is one of those situations. I'm going out. I had Danny in my mind all day, but as I'm recording the video, I'm going to go take Josh just because he knows what it takes to get the job done. And even if he doesn't win by knockout, I think the money line on him is kind of worth the juice, because if he makes Danny, a junkyard dog and makes him go 3 15-minute rounds and makes it ugly, starts grappling a little bit if it's got an edge there. That's where I'm going to lean on the end of the early prelims. I'm going to lean Josh. Definitely. He's got some plus money going on. And, dude, this is going to be an exciting fight night. I think we can see finishes, maybe even 3 in the first 3 fights if we can see Maverick sub her out. So tune in early, Chad. I always say, if you're a fight fan, don't just watch the main card. You got to watch these undercards, because this is where the people that are on the main card fight before they fight on the main card. So yeah, buckle up, get your snacks ready, have a drink, chat. And we're going to move on to the next one, and we have a light heavyweight matchup of Zhang Min Yang versus Brenderson Ribeiro. Again, 1-0 versus 1-0. And howdy doody, how do you call and handicap a match? We have Min Yang as a minus 122 favorite, and Brenderson Ribeiro at a plus like 1.5, something like that. You can just look on the ticker below. Let me know if you guys like that. I want to see any improvements on the video. Win percentage, 60-40, not going to the decision. This is a very close fight. I love Brenderson Ribeiro just in terms of stylistic of the fight. Like, something about the big Brazilians, they can take a lot of damage sometimes, and they can deal a lot of damage too. So thinking Zhang may not be able to handle it. I don't know anything about either of these fighters just up front. So I'm always going to probably lean to somebody that I'm going to get plus money on, right? I always I'm a little biased. Some of my favorite fighters are Brazilian, Rickson Gracie, Gilbert Burns, Poatan, so when I see something like that and it's a toss-up, I'm always going to try and take the little bit of juice plus the guy from where I favor some of my favorite fighters. But yeah, I could see this fight not going the distance. You can, again, pick the fight to end in a KO is another beautiful. I think we're going to see fireworks here, ladies and gentlemen. This is not an average fight time, not even making the first round. So you can get real spicy, but I think we're going to see some heavy hands. And these people, when you're going to click on to the next segment, when they're like, live with the prelims, bang, you're going to see some absolute fireworks coming in from Min Yang and Ribeiro. So just like the fight won't be long, neither should my analysis. Enjoy, everybody, and let's move on to the next. we have a bantamweight bout. Rinya Nakamura versus Carlo Vera. And boy, have I not seen some juice odds like this. I think I got Nakamura as minus 1,200 versus Vera plus 750. Bantamweight. All I'll say about the bantamweight division is anything can happen. Okay? Anything can happen in the bantamweight division. There is nothing that's off limits. I don't even know how to handicap this, man. We have Vera, maybe more experienced fighter. Nakamura coming in there just over one round of average fight time. A lot of TKOs, early knockouts. It seems like 8-0 record versus, I guess, somebody making the debut. They don't update the information sometimes on the UFC website until like Saturday, so it kind of a little bummer for us trying to go through and just use their product to just break down the fights. But that being said, I mean, you always look, like I said, if you don't like the odds on a fighter, if you don't know who to pick, right? If you're trying to add something in there, look at the rounds, look at what might happen, over-unders, fights to go the distance. Do they sub? Do they just KO exclusively? Again, we'll just take a sub percentage. Vera might be able to sneak one in there in the first round. That's how I can see maybe this fight going spicy is Vera has fresh tank first round, maybe gets in a nice position, but gasses out, and Nakamura, if he doesn't look as amazing as a minus 1,200 favorite, could be like an exciting way that this fight can play out. Other than that, man, like just strap up, expect a Nakamura KO or something, and we'll see what Vera's got, man. This is why you have to watch the fights. They're hard to break down. We watch them a couple times a year, possibly, and that's like if you're making every single fight night, every single day. I love these undercards. I love just trying to figure out what's going to happen. Hopefully we're watching some knockouts. Hopefully we're watching some finishes. That's what's the best part about the mixed martial art game, is not letting the judges decide the card. We're going to move on from there. I don't expect, this is a tough one. Maybe, just pass, just enjoy the matchup and move on to the next card, because this is where I start to love the juice. I start to love the juice here, chat. Not live, but I said chat. Take a sip, because we have Marcos Rogelio de Lima, My Teeth Are Loose, versus Justin Tafa out of New Zealand. And boy, ladies and gentlemen, this is an exciting one. On the ticker right now, we got Lima at minus 142 versus Tafa 120. Number hasn't moved at all. And I tell you what, I love Justin Tafa. I can't believe he's plus money here. Marcos coming off a loss. I think a potentially shattering loss. Not shattering loss is a harsh word, but not disturbing, even upsetting loss, because he got physically injured, not being able to eat, chew, affecting your camp, rehab. And Tafa is just a KO machine, coming in there, just starching people. New Zealand man, got that Samoan strength, and I really can't see Sergio de Lima going in there. If he's having trouble against Derek Lewis and getting knocked out like that, Tafa is so clean with his strikes. He's gonna box him up. He's going to be getting some kicks in there. I just 21-10 just seems like De Lima is just itching for another loss. I don't know how he's a favorite. Again, maybe it's more experience. We saw that with Michael Johnson and Darius Flowers. I'm not saying Tafa is way better than Flowers in terms of his career. I've watched him and his brother knock many fools out. So that's not a comparison. That was more of an odds comparison. But that being said, we also seen a lot of plus money big guys come through with a knockout, and that's what I expect. That's where I am on. Tafa plus 120, easy. Add a KO in there, sprinkle it up. I can't see this fight going the distance as well. Put that in a different parlay, move on, because if Tafa loses to this guy, Marcos, I know he looks kind of like a specimen, bro. But, I mean, Tafa's just got that pub strength, dude. He's got that down under strength. He's built different. It's in his blood. It's in his family. And I'm rocking with Tafa, dude. If he goes down, then GG's with that. But heavyweight bout, looking Tafa KO. One of my favorites. Then we're moving on to the prelim main event. We have Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Lemons both coming off a loss, 5-4. I think Dern got knocked out by Andrade. I don't recall Lemons' last fight. Need to do trending page as well. Something I'm going to introduce here soon. I'm going to update and record these videos earlier in the week so we have more time to get it out there too in the future. So they'll be coming out on Monday starting next week. excited to be bringing that to you guys a little bit early as well, but I can do a little bit more research on the day of instead of just trying to record on currently doing. So Amanda Lemons right there versus Mackenzie Dern, and I got Lemons all day. She's minus 130. Dern is like plus 110. I just don't really see, it's tough to pick Mackenzie Dern coming off a KO loss. She's great against bad fighters, but she's average at best against good fighters, and I think Lemons is a good fighter. Lemons, 13-3 record coming off a loss. I know she's gonna want revenge. I know in a lot of people I talk to on the daily, like Lemons there. So we're gonna take Amanda over Mackenzie Dern. How you Dern? Hopefully just a decision loss, not another KO for Dern. That's where I said I like leaning there sometimes is Lemons by decision on a singular pick might be a little bit spicy. Get a little extra juice on a way that I'm leaning that I might pick. I also was really saying that I like to pick. I don't like to tell people what to pick until watch the fights and as they're walking out. Sometimes you can see the winner or loser of the fight during the walkout, during the introductions. You can see a matchup. You can see a stylistic way that something that presents itself in the moment as you see these people. They're just human beings competing, right? So that being said, like that's something that I always take with a grain of salt is watching these fighters walk out onto the cage. You can see who's nervous. You can see who's relaxed, who's been there. And that should always be taken into consideration as you're trying to make any previews and predictions. You got to take into consideration we're doing this well in advance of the weigh-in. So if any of the fighters weigh in heavier or lighter, some of these fighters could be canceled and fights not even happen, or they lose purses, but fighting at a heavier weight could cause an advantage for somebody, right? Or gas in the tank in the third round. I think that happened last week in the women's fight with 2 weeks ago with Staralenko. And her opponent weighed in a pound and a half heavy, and she literally somehow managed a way to finish her with 8 seconds left in the third round. Like, those things happen. So let's go on to the main card. UFC 298, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. First matchup, middleweight division. Anthony Hernandez against Roman Kopylov. 11-2 coming off a win. 12-2 coming off a win. Same height, same reach, and by God, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Hernandez, big, heavy favorite at minus 200, and Kopylov coming in, starting off the week at plus 140, all the way up as 190, plus 195, and I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, why this is. I love Roman Kopylov here. Very active, been finishing his fight second, third round, absolutely dominant. Boxing, kickboxing. I was going to say a little sambo, but very good wrestling defense against Hernandez, who is not as active, high sub defense. I just can't see Kopylov at a physical, like, even him getting out wrestled. I think his defense is that strong. I think his striking is so superior. You're looking at 92% KO percentage. And one decision. I think this fight could go to the decision, if Hernandez does get some opportunities. But I can't see Kopylov. I was such a fan of him. I'm such a fan of him. He's just class fighter. Called out Sean Strickland after his last fight, not realizing who he was calling out. The middleweight champion at the time. He's just a class professional, and I think he's a great company man, dude. He's somebody that you should be excited to see anytime fight, and we can see him at plus 195. Anthony Hernandez minus 238. That seems so lopsided. How are the odds that big of a distribution on a fight that seems that close? I'm always going to lean towards the heavy plus 200 favorites. Like I said, every week there's a couple of them on the card, and I think this one is ripe. This is juicy. I think Kopylov can hit him 7 different ways and knock out Hernandez. Punches, kicks, knees, anything. I think his takedown defense, to me, this is great value. I don't want to say pick him to finish, but just Kopylov money line is just, you're going to just be so grateful you're a fan and become such a fan of him. You're going to see him fight and be like, how did anybody bet against this guy? That's how I truly believe. We're going to see the matchup say 13-2 for Kopylov and 11-3 for Hernandez after this Saturday, barring something. I just don't get the odds. I can't understand the love. Like, Hernandez has fought twice in 2 years. Kopylov has 3 finishes last year alone. relatively speaking. It might be a little time in the past before that, but I'm just come on. Just if he loses, then then I'll eat that loss. You know what I mean? That's fine. That's my guy. That's my guy, Kopilov, dude. He's been just a gangster in the middleweight division for some time now. Just look at his fight history. He's trending 3 straight KOs. He goes down, then so be it. On to the next fight. We have bantamweight battle. Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry King of Cringe Cejudo. 16-4 win. 16-3 loss for Cejudo. That loss being at the Aljamain Sterling in the bantamweight title fight. Merab coming off another win, just absolutely steamrolling everybody, and I think it's the case again. I think you'll see just another steamroll for Merab. I think Cejudo may get finished by submission. I don't think he'll get EKO. I think Merab is just a different pace, a different animal. He might not finish him, but, I mean, he's just going to get wore down over 3 rounds. Merab by unanimous decision is, I think, a really strong. I think he's a fighter's fighter. I think he just goes in there and trains and just loves the bang and loves the fight. Cejudo, at the tail end of his career, if he can't get this one, knows it's all on the line, can be feeling desperation. Like I said, maybe find a finish in there, trying to get off his back or something, but I just think Merab just stays in hella good control. I think it's a longer fight. Win percentages, not too much to break down here. Like you said, look at high decision. Could see it go in the distance. I mean, Merab, the way he wrestles, the way he can just control the fight, he hasn't been, until he stopped, how can you bet against him? How can you pick against him? Cejudo, Triple C, if this was 5 years ago, this is in the past, but this fight is, who's the better fighter on fight night? That's always what you remember. Always remember that. Not who has a better history, who has better skills. It's whoever is the better fighter on fight night. Like I said, my biggest example of that, Poirier-Gaethje in the last fight, when Poirier looked a little bit nervous, he looked a little bit gun-shy, he looked like he knew everything was on the line, and Gaethje was just trying to put another highlight together. I think that's just kind of something that you can see over time with fighters. They're at different arcs in their careers at all times. Competition is fierce in the UFC. You don't get a lot of losses, and you get a chance to come back from a lot of losses against great fighters like Merab. I think Merab, takedown machine Merab all day. Pair him up with some of the guys that you like. Tafa. I paired him up with Kopilov. I put him with Lemons, and I put a bunch of DE kind of with him. That being said, there are a couple fights that I didn't really like touching these next 2 fights too much with any units at play. I think they're very highly contested, and that first one being Jeff Neal, Ian Gary, 13-0 Gary, 6'3" versus 15-5 Jeff Neal, 5'11". Neal coming off a loss to Shavkat, I believe 3rd round submission, standing rear naked choke or something like that for Shavkat. Masterful performance and hell of an effort by Jeff Neal that night. I think if Jeff Neal can bring that junkyard dog, maybe clean it up a little bit. That was maybe Shavkat's toughest test so far, has been Jeff Neal in the octagon. And if he can do that again against Gary, I really think Jeff Neal might be able to get to, if not a late round finish. I want to see Gary still continue to perform well. He's got to prove it, but there's a lot going on in his mental space and in his training camp. And I just know Jeff Neal, he's got them rock hands, man. He just wants to throw them. He's got a good reach for being at a considerable disadvantage. Look at how you can even just see how long his arms are. They go almost, for his 5'11" frame. He's got the same size arms as a 6'3" guy. We could see a big matchup. Not likely to go to decision, but a lot of times when competitive fighters fight each other, they don't take as much. They don't take as many chances to be grammatically correct. And also the larger octagon at the big events tend to lead more to decisions. I believe somebody told me this week it was the large octagon has a 48%, 45 to 48% decision finish percentage, while the Apex octagon has a 60% finish percentage. The size difference is 44% difference between the large arenas versus the fight nights. And I could see this one. I kind of like Jeff Neal. If he can do enough stop some takedowns, maybe even get one himself, do some damage. I really think Jeff Neal is a live dog here, and he's one I might take by himself on fight night, depending on how things go. If Kopolov and Tafa hit pretty good, we get Marab and Lemons, and we're cooking. So that's where I'm really kind of leaning are the big underdogs. I think we have a couple opportunities here to really put one together, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see how these fights shakes out. It's going to be a long night for your boy Puelch, staying up late past his dad bedtime, but going to be excited to watch Jeff Neal take down Ian Gary. Come on now, put a blemish on the record, Jeff Neal. You know, that's why there's people like Jeff Neal, you know, every week. That's Hermanson against Pfeiffer. Like, these young guys got to prove it against guys that have been in the UFC and have taken losses. They know how to adjust on a fight night. They know how to win in the given day. And there's a lot to be said when the cage door shuts and it's just the two guys fighting in there with the referee. That's when it's on the line, and that's when we see what these guys are made of. And these are both tough guys. This is, I think, a much closer fight than the odds say. I could see maybe Gary split decision, but I'm really going Jeff Neal here. I like the fight to probably go the distance. I just tough guys. I can't see a submission. Maybe the fight to end by knockout would be a good one too to lean towards if you can't pick a side or don't like. You didn't want to, you have to lean either way. Maybe both. I don't know. It's a close one. I like Jeff Neal as I go through it. Just not a fan of Gary as much as I used to be, and I'm just gonna root for underdogs. Love that. On to the next one, middleweight bout. We got Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Special Juice Costa. 25-7 versus 14-2. Costa coming off a win. Can't even tell you the last time he fought, man. Brazil, 6'1". I think he probably beat Vittori or something. And Whittaker coming off the loss to DDP, getting that TKO. And didn't take super a lot of damage, but still took a beating. Another pretty close fight. We have big favorite for Whittaker. I think just his class of a mixed martial artist puts him there. Costa, again, big live dog at plus 210. Probably might want to take it on its own or something like that. If Costa can get going forward, doesn't take too much time, can somehow wear down Whittaker, I think he's got a chance. I don't want to say Robert is at the end of his career, but that, anytime you take a TKO loss, you're not getting any younger and any fresher. I think Costa has a lot of power, similar to just if he can just walk him forward. If Costa can put together a game plan and execute some strikes, some combinations with some kicks, I think he can present a lot of trouble for Whittaker. I don't think does Whittaker really go take him down? Does he shoot if he's moving forward and sees him off balance? I don't know if it's part of the game plan. Man, what a co-main event to bring us into the daddy of them all after this. The featherweight championship of the world. Ooh, man, I'm having trouble here. Whittaker, Costa. Like I said, I'm probably just always going to lean Costa with the juice. I just think Robert, I'd rather be it's the same thing. Sometimes you'd rather be a fight early than a fight late with a fighter. Like, I'd rather bet Costa before, if you bet Whittaker one more time and he's in the dumps, and then next time you're like, oh, but, you could get him, I don't know. It's just a lean. I put them by themselves. At the end of the night, cost him. He's just so juiced. Just put half a unit down, and maybe you get lucky. I mean, Whittaker can class act and touch him up. My official pick will be Bobby Knuckles. My official pick will be Jeff Neal. I will come up with the official picks for the record right below us. I'm very adamant about keeping track of my picks. Said we will have a link in the Discord. Visit me live, twitch.tv/pwelsh. No spaces. We're live most days of the week. Come discuss any fights and the breakdowns. We excited for banter each and every day. Taking Bobby Knuckles, though. Probably will bet on what I am picking Bobby Whittaker, but there's a chance I bet on Paulo Costa just because, just look at the odds. I can't get over those. I might put him in a parlay with a bunch of the other underdogs and see if we can maybe get a nice payout. And bringing us to the main event of the evening, UFC 298 featherweight title bout, Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Ilya El Matador Topuria. 26-3 record versus 14-0. By God, ladies and gentlemen, what a matchup we have on our hands for the featherweight title of the world. Absolutely barn burner. We got Topuria, Volkanovski. Volkanovski's coming off the KO loss to Islam. defended against Yair, lost to Islam before that. Been 1,500 days as featherweight champion. Been 4 title holders in 14 years. Aldo, McGregor, Holloway, Volkanovski, and now we have challenger Ilya Topuria. And I tell you what, it's the same thing with the Bobby Knuckles fight. I'm gonna bet Topuria just because I want to be a fight earlier, and I'm gonna pick Topuria. I think at some point history changes, right? Even Alex the Great wasn't always the #1 general in the world. His time passed, and I think this time it passes to El Matador. There's something arrogance, bravado, confidence, manifestation, call it what you may. There's something about the way Topuria might just be able to catch him one time and knock him out, and I think that's all that he needs. Just needs the bull to rush in one time and hit him with something, an uppercut, end his reign, just like McGregor ended Aldo's reign, just like Volk ended, not in TKO fashion, Holloway's reign. Just think at some point there's a passing of the guard, and I don't want it for Volkanovski. I want him to continue to be champion because I think he's a great champion. I think he's an absolute thoroughbred. I will say this in breaking down the fight, this is Topuria's biggest opponent in terms of strength, physicality. Emmett is not the type of fighter that Volkanovski is in terms of even style, right? And I think that is the biggest X factor. If Topuria can't handle Volk's strength, and if he gets hurt and Volk goes in for takedowns and he can't defend, I think you can see the win condition for Volkanovski right there. As he wins all his fights, he beats up. Look at Volkanovski's opponents, man. Besides the last Islam fight, every one of those guys is freaking in the ambulance after the fight. So I think you could see that again from Topuria. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Rodriguez's fight, where not even he's just way more bravado, but it just seems like one of those you're like, oh, you could see Volkanovski losing there, coming off a loss. And, he really just puts it to him. 3rd round finish of Yair. I could see something like that for Volkanovski. I'm not going too heavy on Topuria. I only want him in 1 or 2. Have him in 1 parlay. And I'm probably just going to leave him there because I'm not too confident in this fight at all. Because I really just think the strength of Volkanovski, he handles larger individuals in training all the time, grapples with big world champion grapplers, is a former rugby. He's got the strength. That's in training camp, full training camp. Very, very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. But my official pick will be Topuria. I'm going to go with the upset just because I want to be ahead. If anything, I'm going to be ahead of the curve. And I love Volk, and if he wins, that will make that loss even better for me because it proves how great of a champion he is. And it's weird how you got to just hedge life sometimes, chat. You know what I mean? You kind of hedge life. I'm going to pick Topuria because I think that's what's going to happen, but my heart tells me Volkanovski just because he's an absolute warrior, absolute cage monster, man, an absolute savage, very strong. And that being said, I think you're going to have a new UFC featherweight champion of the world, Ilya El Matador Topuria. I think that's the way that it shakes out, chat. We're going to do a quick rundown at the end of the video. I got Topuria. I'm going to take Whitaker, official picks, Jeff Neal, Marab, Roman Kopylov, Lemons, Tafa, Nakamura, Ribeiro, Quinn Law, Elliott, and Maverick. Official picks, we'll keep track of them. We got the featherweight championship of the world contested Anaheim, California, UFC 298. What a stretch of fights and opportunities we have to break down for you guys. I'm excited to be here. It's your boy P. Welsh signing off here. Excited to see what happens on Saturday. And peace and love, everybody.